Hey everyone, I am Rusty Osborne, host of the Losing Weight podcast. And if you're looking to be in better health and learn more about biohacking, then you gotta listen to the Hack Life podcast with my good man, Joel Evans.
All right, I'm here with Rusty Osborne at the Coach Rusty on Instagram. This is my main man, guys. He helps men lose weight for good. But not only that, he's actually started a new company called Find Your Total Health, and he helps people live their healthiest and most fulfilling lives, and really is on a mission to end obesity. He's also the host of the Losing Weight podcast. Rusty, welcome to the show, brother.
Thanks, Joel. Glad to be here, man. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, super excited to have you. Just be for people that don't know, Rusty and I are part of a mastermind, a coaching mastermind, and it's just really nice because I get to connect with a lot of high achievers, high performers, and it's really nice that we have that. I don't want to say that luxury, but just that ability. And when you invest in yourselves, you get to be connected with a lot of good people like yourself. And so I'm truly blessed to be connected with someone like you, who's just high energy. And that's what I really love about you, is that you just bring it every day. Anybody that follows you on Instagram or just in life, that's what you do. So really just appreciate, and I want to acknowledge your joy and just love that you bring, and energy that you bring to the world, man.
Thanks, Joel, man. I really appreciate that. I didn't know that I was doing that, and so my mom just thought I was annoying as a kid. So I like hearing a better spin on it than that. My mom does love me, I promise, but
Yeah.
I know I got on her nerves.
So I want to talk about just kind of, how you got to where, you want to know, like you said, your mom was, thought you were annoying. You weren't always successful. Like, you at one time you were 80 pounds overweight. Like, can you kind of just talk about like kind of how that came about? Like, when did you realize, like, I got to make a shift in my life. I got to turn this thing around.
Yeah, absolutely. So long story, I'll give you the mini story short for, excuse my mouth. I'm going to give you the big story short first and then bring a little more context. So essentially, I was obese, drinking too much. I was a full-time musician, just a mess and a monster. I could eat more than you. I could drink more than you, man. And just, oh yeah, it was a mess. And I lost 85 pounds, put on 35 pounds of muscle, or about 30 pounds of muscle now. And it's been fairly effortless to keep the fat off once I had the right tools in place.
Ooh.
But it's been great. I love it. I feel good. I look good. Like, I see myself in the mirror. I'm like, look at that guy. He looks good. And that's not something that we as men are really taught to do. So it was really interesting to start having that insight and feel okay with that. But the longer context of this is, and actually speaking to my mom, she showed me my baby book just a couple months ago, and she diligently logged, like, what does Rusty eat? What is his favorite foods? So, first few months was like breastfeeding, maybe some formula. And then after a little bit, I started having spaghetti. It was easy to chew, and it was funny to see spaghetti sauce on my face, I guess, right? And so
Yeah.
by the time I was about a year and a half, the entries from there through the rest of that baby book said the same thing. He eats everything, including whatever's left on his brother's plate. So from a year and a half old, I was eating everything. So I thought that this was just like me being an idiot from when I was like in maybe elementary school, because I was fat then too. But it literally was from the get-go. And so that kept going, and I was getting positive reinforcement from people around me. Like, look at how much this kid eats. Isn't that cute?
Oh, wow.
Wow. And nobody thought that would be detrimental, right? I didn't think so. I just kept eating. I'm like, they think this is good. I'm going to keep on going. And so I was fat all through school. I slimmed down a little in high school, but then gained it right back after. And I got up to like 235 or so. I actually stopped looking at the scale because I was scared of seeing whatever the number would be.
Wow.
And so eventually I'm like, okay, I'm tired of this. I don't really want to be fat. This kind of sucks. What do healthy people do? Because healthy people are skinny. What are these skinny people doing? They're walking and they're running a lot. So I'm going to try it out. So I start walking, I start running. I get into doing 5Ks, half marathons. I did some ultra marathons up and down mountains and all this stuff. And I had a personal trainer. I was eating what the book said I should eat for if I'm doing all this activity, and I'm doing all this work. And I lost about 30 pounds, which would be awesome if I only had 30 pounds to lose, but I had a lot more to go. I was literally obese. People like this didn't work. And so like, yeah, it worked a bit, but it wasn't the key. So after doing all of that exercise and running, after one of the second ultra marathon I did, I was so injured that I couldn't exercise anymore. So I had no option but to change. And right around that time too, I was playing this gig where my band played earlier than normal, which sounds cool because you get to go to bed earlier, right? Like, if
Yeah.
you're the last band, you have to keep your shit together and function on stage from 11 p.m. to 1 a.m. or whatever. But this time I played from like 9 to 10, which means I had all night to make terrible decisions.
Ah,
And so this night was one of the gnarliest nights that I had. I don't know how I survived. I don't know how I wasn't arrested. I don't know. I mean, the cops were there. Like, I don't know why they didn't put me away. So
yeah.
thank God. Thank you, everybody. But that next morning, I woke up. My bass guitar was missing. I don't know how I got home. Everything's a blur. And this bass guitar wasn't even mine. It was a high-end custom bass that I had borrowed just for this gig. And so I'm thousands of dollars in the hole if I don't find this thing. I'm traveling all around
Wow.
the county trying to figure out, okay, where did we go? Where could I have left it? And after giving up on life and just saying, I'm a horrible person, I need to quit drinking forever, like this is terrible, I get home that night to my apartment and it's sitting there on my balcony. What the hell? My neighbor's like, oh yeah, you left it by the garage last night, so I just brought it up for you. And so I spent all day. And the problem, this is where the real rock bottom moment wasn't all of that. It was the moment then where I was like, thank God it's here. Let's go get some drinks to celebrate.
Wow.
And that was like, oh, hold the phone, guys. Like, this is wrong. Like, and it wasn't just, and mind you, this is after doing all these marathons and thinking that I was healthy. That's where it occurred to me that it was overconsumption was the problem. I was overdoing my booze, obviously, overdoing my food because I could go to Del Taco and get a Fiesta pack, which is a family size meal, and eat it all
Yeah.
myself in a night, at 2 a.m. Smart. And then I would wake up because I had this habit loop that I drilled in where if I wake up hungover, I have to run. And
Wow.
so then I'm overdoing my exercise, my inflammation, my whole body must be just breaking down. And so at this point, it was like, okay, this needs to change. So my wife and I said, let's figure out this nutrition thing. We went through an elimination diet, figured out what works for our bodies, which foods don't, and just focused on being healthy instead of focusing on losing weight. And the
Beautiful.
fat melted off. I dropped down to 150 pounds, which is crazy for someone at 6'1", but I was healthy as heck. Like, I felt so good. My injuries were gone. Everything was working how it needed to. And then I just started packing on muscle after that. And it just feels good, man. It just feels good. So that's the long story.
That is such an amazing story. And I'm just thinking so many things when you're telling that story, just like, and it's interesting because it wasn't like a very linear, like, oh, this thing, one event happened and then I just got better, like just like that. Like, actually, you got stuck again. And it sounds like then you made another mistake and then you got stuck again. So I'm just curious, like, you know, everything that everything that you learned, I mean, do you see that with a lot of the clients too that you're working with in terms of just like those setbacks, or where they tried something and then they failed and then they gave up, and then whereas you never gave up, you just kind of kept saying, well, I'm just gonna keep going. I'm just gonna add something to my routine. I'm gonna add maybe running, like you did an ultra marathon. Now I'm gonna add, maybe you probably started juicing. Who knows? I don't know what you
Oh,
did.
yeah.
Like, I'm gonna start, being just healthy. But yeah, do you see that a lot? Just where like there's a lot of failures and stuff in their past, and there's
Yeah.
something they just can't shake, or even injuries, like you mentioned.
Big time. And the interesting thing too is I saw myself failing over and over. So in that moment, I didn't have that perspective of the long term where, yeah, like you said, I just kind of kept trying stuff until it worked out. But my clients as well, they've come to me saying, like, I failed at this diet, I failed at that one, I failed at this workout. Like, I did 75 hard, I've gone vegan, I've done
Yeah.
whole 30, I've gone paleo, and like I'm still fat. I'm a failure. What's wrong with me? And that's what I felt too. Right. And the amazing thing is that over a long enough timeline, as long as you just don't give up, even if you feel like a failure, but you just keep taking the action, you will succeed. Right. If you keep taking new actions, at least, right. And continue with them long enough. But that's something that our clients have come to us. And I actually call it yo-yo scars. Like, you're yo-yo dieting.
Yeah.
And when you pack on all this weight and all this fat, it can be difficult to get those fat cells to ever go away.
Mm,
Right. And so that's a way that your body is now scarred because you did something detrimental. Right. Plus, that's going to upset your leptin levels on such a different level that you have to do so much work to reverse that. But your body feels scarred. And my body still has issues from when I used to binge eat all the time. And so there's these scars that I've got from doing really, really well and then doing really terrible and really, really well. And another one of those scars is the subconscious saying like, but you failed again. What makes this time any different?
Yeah.
What makes you think that you could do anything well? You can't even stick to a diet, you idiot. Why are you going to stick to your career? Why would you do a good job today in your marriage? Like you're going to fail at everything anyways, just give up. And so these scars get stuck all over our body, our brains, our emotions, and it takes a lot of work to heal those up. But over a long
Yeah.
enough timeline, we can put the things in place to make it happen.
I love that. Okay, so what was the conversation that you were having in your head during that time when, like you said, what was? I'm just curious because you said like, yeah, I actually had to like look back. I had to zoom out for a second and be like, I see myself doing this. Even like the guitar story, you said like, oh yeah, like I know that. Thank God I'll do anything to get it back, and then you got it back. You're like, let's go drinking. So like, yeah, what was the conversation? I'm curious, going in your head, and then is that what you tell your clients? I'm also curious, like what's the message you tell them? Like, you just got to stick it in. You got to stay in for the long run. Is that, that's a two-part question, but yeah, what are your thoughts?
So the first part about the self-talk, and this is something that I know a lot of my clients have said the same exact thing, is you get home after a long night of tacos and whiskey, and you look in the mirror, and you're getting ready for bed, so you take your shirt off, and like I just saw myself standing there, sweaty and kind of gross, definitely drunk, and just like, Rusty, you did this again. How many nights do you want to look at yourself and do this? Look at you. Oh, you suck.
Yeah.
And it was like, and I can still see myself in the mirror. I know that bathroom mirror so well. And that's where I took my before and after photos. So I do have a little bit of contrast there. But for so long, I would just see myself and be like, really? Again? And it was hard. The booze was free. The food was free because that was playing music for a living. And it was just flowing. And that was the party. But then I'd get home just depressed, anxious, pissed off. I wasn't a great husband because of that. I wasn't a great band member or teammate. And so there was all this garbage and pain just building up. And I wish that it was just one or two moments that felt like rock bottom, but it felt like I was down there just getting my face scraped against the bottom of the ocean floor for a good long time. And so I tell my clients about that too, to answer the second part of the question, because that's what they felt. And they don't have to feel alone on that. Like, and even if it's not weight that you're struggling with, but something else in your health where like maybe you've got autoimmune issues that you're still just tackling and you've tried everything. You've gone to every doctor and then you say, you know what, screw it. I'm going to have beer and salsa, even though that nightshades are messing with my autoimmune conditions, right? Like,
Yeah.
I'm just going to do it because screw it. Nothing else is helping anyways. And then you go home that night, you got your heartburn, and then your issues flare up again. And it's a very similar cycle. And the thing that I bring it back to isn't like, man, you just got to stick it out a little farther because, man, like
positive, you can do this.
Yeah, like, it's okay to be negative and say shit sucks sometimes, and that's totally fine. The thing that I help them realize, though, is that I really don't believe there's anything as regression. Like, I don't think that we can go backwards in our life. I think there's only growth. There is faster or slower growth depending on your actions. So I can choose to get better sleep, eat the food that I know works for me, as well as make sure my workouts are catered to how I'm feeling, right? And that's a great way to grow. Or I could say, you know what? Blinders on. I'm going to go as hard as I can. I'm going to just go, 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 go. And my growth, honestly, in my health itself could be slower because of that, right? But as long as we say, okay, here's the deal. By the end of my life, I bet you I'm going to feel better. I've got, maybe I'm going to aim for Beachbody 2026, starting today in 2022.
Yeah.
And by then, I know I can get there, right? So then it's, do you want to go faster or slower? And even if you fail, even if you fall off the tracks, just take a pause, review and reflect what worked, what didn't, why did I fall off the tracks? We don't have to get so emotional about it. Just look at it and say, hey, I fucked up. Okay, let's learn and then keep on going. And as long as we keep that process rolling, then it's going to get us there. It's like Ray Dalio has his success principles, right? And it's this loop where you set a goal, it's working, and you fall off track and you fail, you learn, you set a new goal, and you keep on going. And if you keep that going, it's this upward trajectory that's inevitable. It's just inevitable if you learn and continue.
So powerful. I feel like just when you tell your story, for one reason or another, you really have like this growth mindset. And I feel like the entire time you were always playing the long game, which I find fascinating. Like you even said, like, I lost 30 pounds and I had 80 to go. You know, so you had 50 more, but you never got disappointed. And even in the sense where you said, I'm just going to start eating healthier and see what happens. You didn't say, I'm going to go keto. I'm going to go carnivore. I'm going to go we're going to get crazy here. We're going to lose all this weight. You just really stuck it out and like, no, I'm just going to eat healthier. And then you learn from your mistakes, like you said, but just kept going. You kept out it. You're like what Simon Sinek talks about, like the infinite game. You know, you're playing this game is forever, baby. This game of life is forever. But if you think in these short terms and you lost, so then you just give up. You never had that. Have you always been that way, or was that something that you cultivated?
Oh, I wish. The only growth mindset that I had as a kid was I could grow wider than you, man. I could just out eat you, man. I could out drink you, and that was about it. I remember, and I still have to work through this one emotional loop sometimes when it comes to this growth mindset versus fixed mindset. And it comes to, if something is just hard and I don't want to do it and I can't do it, it's like, this is going to be so much work. I need help. There's no way I can do this myself. And like, obviously we should have help, but there's things that you can do on your own if you just put in the freaking work, right?
Sure.
But as a kid, I remember my brother was better than me at literally everything except for eating. We were about neck and neck on eating, right? He was really good at it too. And so every meal ended up being a competition. But when we were playing video games, you know, he's a year and a half older than me. So as a kid, that's a big difference. He's got a lot more hand-eye coordination. He understands things better. So if I got stuck on a level, he'd be like, let me fix that for you. Like, let me get past it. Right. Or and then he would get grounded because I was like, Mom, he won't give me the game back. Right. And then I'm sitting there playing the game. I get stuck. I'm like, Jeff, don't tell Mom, but I really need your help to get past this level. And so I never actually got past the level myself. And so I had this radically fixed mindset on so many levels because of things like that, where I never felt that I could do better. I never felt that I could do better. And it was really, I honestly don't know what it was. There's some sort of internal drive in me that did have a growth mindset that, like, I don't know, like there's other successful people out there. There's other healthy people out there. There's other rich people out there. And I wasn't any of those. How can I do that? And so there is, and I think everyone's got that on some level. We all want to be better. And so just continually, every once in a while, catching a glimpse of like, well, I know they did better. So what else can I do? Was in there at the same time. I mean, I guess it's a human thing where we hold both sides of the coin, right? Sometimes we're just a pile of human garbage, and sometimes we are the, like, Christ incarnate for all I care, right? You know, like we're just the best person in the whole wide world. And we go oscillating between these two extremes so much of the time. And so learning how to balance that. Sorry, now I'm just processing out loud because you asked me a question I haven't thought of in a long time. So thanks for that.
Yeah, no, I love that. I love that answer. And I mean, I just appreciate it. And it's just really cool to just see. It's just, I always think like there's no accident for why people are successful and why they got to where they got and they got the results they got. And it's just really interesting to hear yours. There was no quick hack. There was no quick fix. You know, but you just really stuck with it. And it's just been not many people, though. I think like the 1% of the people that I know will continue to do those things and will continue to go deep. We'll continue to cultivate that growth mindset. And here you are today. So very cool. Any okay, having on that note, like what do you think is like one of the biggest myths or myth when it comes to losing weight, or just something that you hear over and over again? You're like, that is complete trash.
Absolutely. My favorite one that I trash on all the time is calories in, calories out. I think it's absolute garbage. And now, to reverse and just show my hypocritical self a little bit, right? Remember how I said I was going to stop this life of overconsumption, right? Well, we shifted and I went totally addicted to health, right? And what we did was we shifted the type of food we were eating. But I was easily eating 6 giant meals every day. So likely 5,000 to 7,000 calories every single day, and melting fat. Melting fat. I couldn't, like, there was no way to keep it on. It was just going away because my inflammation tanked. So, like, it was amazing how much my body was healing. inflammation went so low. I was still doing enough exercise to keep on what muscle I had, I think. I don't know. I didn't know enough at the time, honestly. But I didn't count any calories. When I did count calories before that, it was when I was still fat. So now my brain equates like, yeah, counting calories is for unsuccessful fat people because that's who I was. And so I will hammer this home day in and day out, right? If you have the last 5 pounds to lose and you've already tackled inflammation and these other things, then yeah, you're probably intaking more carbon atoms than you're excreting at that point. But especially if you're like me or like the people that I work with most who have a lot of weight to lose, you can throw calories right out the friggin' window. It is unnecessary. It's too much work. If you just figure out which foods work for you and which ones don't, then your body is going to come to this level of homeostasis, balance those leptin and ghrelin levels. Like we're going to fix so many things if we can just throw out that myth of calories in, calories out matters and focus on the things that really do matter.
I love that, dude. I'm so happy you shared that one. That's one that comes up for me too, and that's something that I hear a lot from people when I'm chatting about them about their health and their weight losses. And it's interesting when I ask them, like, do you know like the steps that do you know the steps to take to lose the weight? And they often will say, well, sure. I mean, at the end of the day, it's calories in, calories out, and work out more. I'm like, always scratching my head. I'm like, but you've been doing that and it hasn't worked. So I love that you shared that. That's beautiful.
Yeah, and it's really it's tough to see because we've been so conditioned as a society to think that the food pyramid is great. It's perfect and we should just eat less calories but make sure 7 of those servings are whole grains, right? Like no. Dear God, no. Like you've never heard of a lectin, have you? Like we
Yeah.
need to be careful here. And so there's so much more that goes into it that we can really, especially if you're significantly overweight, all of that is garbage because, I mean, in America, we've got, I mean, depending which studies you look at least 75% of the country is overweight or obese.
Yeah.
That means 25% of us have it figured out, quote unquote, or just
Yeah.
a good metabolism or
Yeah.
whatever, right?
Yeah.
And that sucks. And that shows that the last 30 years or 40 years of what the media has put out, what the government has put out, and like government does some good things, but they do a lot of shit too. And so one
Yeah.
of those is perpetuating this myth that we should be eating less, exercising more. Because remember, I did that. I did try that. I was running freaking ultra marathons. Those hurt and they burn a ton of calories, man. I couldn't eat enough calories to keep that on. Impossible. And I was still fat, right? So look at the evidence of what has worked for other people, not what other people, quote unquote, say you should do. The people that run Pepsi and Coca-Cola are pushing exercise because guess what? Their drinks really are full of calories, full of sugar, and they say, oh, sugars don't matter. You can have all you want if you exercise. And that's false. Like sugar is killing you on a regular basis. It's ruining your brain. I heard one quote that it's like having a big blood sugar spike is like having a bunch of rabid chihuahuas running around in your brain with a machine gun. And that's like, it's a great quote because it
Yeah.
helps me remember like sugar is pretty terrible a lot of the time. I still have some. I've got some cookie dough bites that are all paleo in my fridge right now, and I'm going to polish them off. But I just get really passionate about this because exercise is not how you lose weight. Exercise is how you balance some other things and feel really good. Exercise, calories, not equated to fat loss.
Love that. Rusty, do you have kids?
Just me.
That's what I thought. But the sugar thing that you're talking about, yeah, give some kids sugar. You want to see about the chihuahuas running around? You will see that. So that's cool. By the way, you mentioned cookie dough. My wife makes this really good organic handcrafted cookie dough using all natural flavors. So I'm gonna send you some just because you mentioned that. Yeah, you'll like it. Yeah, it's not keto or anything like that, but the ingredients are like pure. She uses dates and stuff, so it's all yummy stuff. It's a cookie dough that you actually eat out of a jar. You don't actually bake it. You just eat out of a jar. So it's
that's the way cookie dough should be.
Yeah.
It's like
so beautiful. Love that. Now let's flip it on the other way. So what's like one thing if you were to recommend someone's trying to lose weight and like, let's just use you as an example. Like you had this happen to you too, 80 to 100 pounds, like a lot. Like this isn't just like, I just need a quick 25 pounds, Rusty. Like you got 100 pounds to lose. Like what's the one thing they can start doing today that is going to really start moving the needle for them?
Okay. So this is very serious, and I promise that I'm not trying to like shift away from any like hardcore tactics. But this one is the number one thing you can do. It's have a practice of review and reflection.
Mm.
You sit with a journal, your phone. I don't really care how you do it, but a regular process to review and reflect on what's working for you and what's not. And my answer used to be just practice gratitude because you're going to like see everything's great in the world, which, that's cool.
Yeah.
But at the same time, seeing that the world is great isn't necessarily what's going to move the needle in every aspect of your life. But if you can review and say it's the clients that you talk to that have been counting calories and haven't been losing weight. Well, if you regularly review and say, okay, my big goals are lose this much weight, make this much money, have this much quality time with my family, well, then when you review on your week and look at how you matched up to that, then you can say, okay, well, I spent another week running a lot and not eating much, and I haven't lost a pound. That's weird,
Mm.
right? Okay, I'm just going to log that as weird. It's just a data point for now. Okay, then what about the money thing? Well, I've been putting in the same work for the same company for so long, and they don't value me, and this still kind of sucks. Oh, maybe I should do something about that. Okay, data point noted. Okay, what about my relationship? Well, I told my wife we'd go out on date night, but I decided to work late instead, and I skipped it. Well, guess what? You just put in one habit. Maybe it's a beautiful Sunday morning. You sit down with a journal and you review your week, and you're like, "Wow, okay, I am human garbage. This is awesome. Like, let's let's do something about this." And then you can make a change. All right? Then you could say, "Okay, well, if the calories thing isn't working for me, what is it that I can try that might work? Do I want to go on a like a Whole30 or go paleo or work with a coach? What's really going to move the needle on my goal?" Right? Then you can start planning and being effective about it instead of being the definition of insanity, redoing the same thing every week. Then you can look at your job and say, well, do I want to stay with this company? Do I want to start my own business? Do I want to do something completely different? Do I have enough money to just like semi-retire for 6 months and then figure it out later? Right? But you can
Yeah.
start to review and reflect and see what's going to work. And then your relationship, same thing. You can fix every aspect of your life if you have a mode of reviewing and reflecting on what is it you want, why do you want it, what have you been trying, what works, what doesn't, and now what are you going to do about it?
So critical, man. I love that you said that because I always find the same thing. I'm not going to, most of the time, the things you need to be doing has a lot to do with mindset, has nothing to do with like, I could give you all these juicy, whatever, calorie, this. A lot of that is like the last thing I would do. The first thing I would do is exactly what you said, working on the mindset, working on your practices. And you can't, if you're not tracking what you're doing, then you can't, there's no metrics to measure it. You can't measure what you can't track. So love that you said that. So, so key, man. Beautiful. Um, speaking of that, and just tracking what you're doing, you've got some exciting things that you're working on, some projects. You want to just kind of tell us like what are some things that you're working on right now?
Yeah. So my current trajectory, and mind you, I am human, so things shift. I'm kind of crazy and emotional, high energy, right? So these things can kind of flip back and forth, which is why I need this review and reflection constantly to be like, Rusty, you're going off track, come back to center. You're going off track, come back to center. But as of right now, the things that I'm super excited about and tied in with that review and reflection, I'm working with Craig Ballantyne right now and helping him get people enrolled in our new discipline boot camp and just in our coaching programs that have been proven to help on every level of life. He started off mainly business coaching after he built his own fitness business, right?
Oh,
And
wow.
so, yeah, so super cool, great story. I super resonate because he wants to help people make change in their life, just like me. And so now I'm able to align with him, and we're both making a bigger impact because of that. And so this is why I'm so bullish on the review and reflection, is it's one of his main practices. And so, and for a quick gift for everybody out there, if you email me after this, thecoachrusty@gmail.com, and I know that I'll probably get a flood here, but I will send you free ebooks. And maybe if I'm
Ooh.
feeling spicy, I can send you a free physical book that will walk you through this and give you the habits that we're using to help people upgrade their business, their relationships, their weight loss, their health, all of this. So shoot it over to me. I want to help. That's purely what I'm here for. And so that's project
Huge.
number one that
Thanks,
I'm
Rusty.
really, of course, of course. I want people to be good. Like, I
Yeah.
know what it's like to feel like garbage for a long time. So I don't want you to have that. And so whatever I can do is that's what I'm working on. And the other thing, I've got the podcast that I'm just working on bringing as much success habits and skills and tools and mindsets and communities together for people to have everything they could need to make this change.
Very cool. And like, you can obviously tell from looking at, like, listening to you talk, your podcast, it's called the Losing Weight Podcast, but it doesn't just focus on losing weight. Like, we can see there's so much more depth. We've got the mindset, and just, you really geek out on the health. So there's way more to it. Definitely tune into it. It's not just about losing weight, right? I mean, that'd be fair to say, right?
Right. Yeah. It's all these different things that we need to have a great life, right? It's about health and fulfillment. And obviously if you chase health, like weight loss is a side effect. Like you'll get it.
Yeah.
We just got to tend the garden that will get the butterflies to show up, is the way I think about it. Right.
Yeah.
If we work on optimal health and all the things that surround that, so having great relationships, business, health, and we bring plenty of nerdy health hacks and biohacks and things to it too, which are a blast and I love getting into. But that's just, it's still part of the conversation. It's not the full conversation. So that's what I'm really working on bringing forward for everybody there.
Awesome. I want to jump into some lightning round questions because I know we're coming up on the time. But anything else that you wish I'd asked you that I didn't?
Anything else? I think, I mean, my favorite food is burritos. I love them. There's actually, I haven't told you about burrito-logy. I came up with a philosophy. This is total fat guy philosophy, right? So like, bear with me. Anybody who loves burritos, you're really going to get this. So, and I've got a whole episode that digs way into it because I'm stupidly pumped about burritos and the way that it equates to life. But the first nugget that I brought home on this that I want to share is, think about when you get a good, delicious, big burrito, right? And you take the first bite, it's kind of full of tortilla. And then at the end, you have that really juicy ending, right? All the juices have soaked to the bottom and it's so good. And you want to just get all the juice out of those last two bites. Well, do you remember what bite 5 was in that burrito, or bite 7? Or were you thinking elsewhere, checking your phone, trying to wave the waitress down to get more chips? Like, do you remember the rest of that burrito? Because every single day you've got an opportunity to enjoy every single moment, not just in the morning when you're kind of groggy, like that first bite of all the tortilla at the beginning of the burrito, not just the end where maybe you're having that really nice time with your family after dinner. And it's just relaxing and beautiful. That's the juicy ending. But what about that little bite in the middle that was so full of guacamole and carne asada? That was so delicious. And it was a little different than the bite before that had a little too much cilantro, but you didn't mind. Like that was pretty good. And every single moment of every day is so worth experiencing. And when I remember the burrito idea, it helps me remember that right now, the middle of this podcast is a beautiful, beautiful moment that's no better, in my opinion, than the juicy ending, which is awesome. It's just different, right? And so I'm just stoked about burritos and the way they can teach us about life. I think that's going to be my TED Talk. And so stay tuned on that one.
Awesome. I love that. Thank you for tying everything back into burritos. That's beautiful. Awesome stuff. All right, let's do some lightning round questions, shall we?
Sounds good.
If the old you could see the new you, what would the new you say?
The new me would say to the old me, old fat version of Rusty, I'd tell him, man, like, that would be tough. It would be really tough. I would say lean into the pain. Really lean into the pain, because you can get a lot of growth out of the pain. There's growth in the good stuff too, but man, feel it. Feel it deep.
Yeah, love that. What are some choices you think you made that made you who you are today?
Learning to think for myself. And I'm not perfect, but that's one thing that has continued to pay dividends on dividends. My wife and I decided to start a health coaching business, right? And people were like, yeah, starting a business is dumb. Like, you're going to fail. Like, okay, cool. Well, we did it. And then we decided that we were going to sell all our stuff and move around the country full time. And we're technically homeless at this point, right? But we've been loving it. And everyone's like, well, it's going to be cold if you go up north, right? There's going to be a bunch of bugs if you go to Minnesota. There's going to be all this. This is going to be terrible. It's too hot in Texas. It's too like, but the more that we just said, okay, yeah. And we did it anyways and thought for ourselves, the more that we get more and more out of life. And it just came down to, I'm going to think for myself and do what I feel is best. And now those same people say, man, I wish I could do that.
Yeah. Wow. So powerful, dude. Love that. You are such a force in the health and wellness world. I'm wondering, like, and it isn't actually because you bring so much to the table when it comes to mindset stuff. So But I'm just curious, is there anybody in the health and wellness world that inspires you or somebody that you follow? Or, and in this case, it could even be the mindset where like Craig Ballantyne, we're talking about that, but yeah.
Yeah. And I think that it's so valuable to have different gurus to follow, right? Or different influencers that are really, and that's how I got out of where I was I brainwashed myself by surrounding myself virtually with all these different people. And so like I started off with a, a Tony Robbins book. It was great. It helped me realize that I can kind of start thinking for myself and doing my own thing. And right now it's Craig Ballantyne because I'm working with the guy. I'm drinking the Kool-Aid. It's great. Like I'm getting more results than I've ever gotten. So that's huge. Another one, especially for mindset, health and wellness, Xander Fryer, who we work with. When it
Yeah.
comes to mindset, if I had read his book or listened to his podcast back when I was a fatty,
Yeah.
I would have gotten out quicker.
Yeah.
100%. So, and I could list endless people. Ben Greenfield is my like go-to like Googling for health stuff, or and there's so many other people out there. Dave Asprey was really influential for me to learn next level after I started figuring out nutrition. But man, like I would just say for everybody, like pick one and go for it. Like dive in head first and drink the Kool-Aid and get everything you can out of each of these mentors.
Yeah. Love that. I'm a big reader. Are there any like big books that jump out at you? Like what, any like 1 to 3 that you just recommend that other people read that had a huge impact on your life?
Yeah, the one that I have been rereading regularly is the hold on, what was it called? Way of the Peaceful Warrior. That's what it's called.
Oh,
Way of the Peaceful Warrior. It's by Dan Millman,
yeah.
and it's just a great story that helps. And it's had a ton of other people that say the same thing, where it just kind of helps bring the rest of life into perspective. Like we go through some hard shit, we got to figure it out. And if you haven't read it, it's an easy read, really great read, great story, and it's just too good.
Yeah. Great recommendation. Last couple questions and we'll wrap it up. What any rituals or hacks or practices that you do on a regular basis?
Too many. And so my new ritual slash hack is getting rid of the non-essential. What is it that I don't need to do? So I don't do my breath work every single day and a cold shower every single day anymore, because man, that took time and energy, and I'm going to focus on the things that are most important today. Right. And yesterday, you know what? I made time for a good cold plunge, a bunch of breath work. So it still is in the life, but it's not a daily thing. So the biggest ritual I've got right now is just, what is it that I don't need to do?
Mm.
How can I say no to the good so I can say yes to the great? And that's really my biggest ritual. And that ties in with that review and reflection that I'm doing on a regular basis, a couple times a day, and definitely every week and every month.
That's awesome. Love that. Last but not least, man, Rusty, where can people find you?
You can find me as of right now. I'm the shirtless guy walking around Cedar City, Utah. So if you're in the area, come check it out.
Getting your vitamin D. That's all.
Always,
Just
man.
being healthy, man.
Yeah, it'll be 30 degrees outside. I'll have gloves and a beanie on and no shirt, and got to get it in.
That's me in Idaho. I love it.
Right. Yes. And outside of that, the podcast, Losing Weight, check it out. And that's the best place to just get as much of my mentors' influences and mine all in one package. Great place there. And then on Instagram, the Coach Rusty. And so those are a couple places. And if anybody has questions directly for me, shoot me an email. I'm cool. I'm open. thecoachrusty@gmail.com. I'm here to help.
Awesome. Rusty, thanks for being on the show, brother. Appreciate you.
Joel, thank you, man. I appreciate you. Thanks for having me and bringing so much wisdom to the good people.